Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Thursday edition of Hoopsville, our final live Thursday show of the year. It is March 8th, 2018. And if you're in New England, I hope you're digging out okay. It's a storm that once again missed us down here. This winter stunk for us winter lovers. It's a lot to talk about in Division III, and we hope you will enjoy this show as you always do. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. There is plenty to talk about in Division III as we get ready for the Sectionals weekend in men's and women's basketball. It's going to be some awesome games, that is for sure. We talked a little bit about it at the end of Sunday's show, of the matchups that we're going to see. And no, not all the hosts are going to come out having won. Plain and simple. It just isn't going to happen. Who's going to come out is certainly up for debate. We have a plethora of some really good basketball teams in Division III, and the parity has made things so much better. And as a result, I suggest you go see some games. Being a little hypocritical in that statement, as I am going to struggle to see some games this week. I was hoping to get to a site on Friday night. Some at-home childcare things have made that a little bit impossible. So I will be watching Friday games from home. Outside chance, I then will scoot off somewhere on Saturday to see a game, but we will see. We'll cross that bridge when we get a little closer to it, as they say. Let's see. Gordon will be at a women's site. Pat's going to double dip. I'm kind of jealous. He's going to hit a men's and a women's site. If I had had the opportunity, I kid you not, if I really had the chance and I could have pulled this off, I would have left today. I would have done Hoopsville on the road somewhere. And I would have tried to double dip at Augustana and Platteville. I'm not sure which order. I think initially, just for logistics, I probably would have gone Platteville first and then Augustana second, because I know I can get from Augustana to the airport outside Chicago that I need to get to the quickest. It's longer from Platteville. But that's what I would have, if I had had my druthers and complete control of things, that's what I would have done, because that would have been great to see 3 basketball games and 6 teams. Similar to the opening weekend on Friday when I saw 4 games and 8 teams. It just wasn't in the cards this year. We'll see. I may either shoot up to Ramapo on Saturday night or shoot over to Swarthmore on Saturday night. I'm not sure. I believe Ryan will be at Swarthmore. So he'll hit the one men's site. As I said, Pat Coleman's going to hit a men's and a women's site, and Gordon's going to be at a women's site as well. I might just man the fort, plain and simple. But we'll see it. You can follow me at D3Hoopsville to see where I may be headed. A couple of things noteworthy. We had our annual All-Star vote in men's basketball for the NABC All-Star game. And congratulations to Penn State Altoona's Kevin Weckworth and York of Pennsylvania's Dalton Myers. They both got some serious support, and they will be in the All-Star game. We have been doing the vote since 2011, I believe. So this was our 8th time doing it. And Dalton got 60,000 votes. I said Altoona's name wrong. I'm sorry. It's Ishmael Nance. Who did I mention? Oh, I mentioned Union's guy. Ishmael Nance from Altoona won. He got 58 per thousand. And then Kent Wentworth from Union ended up finishing 3rd with 40,000. Very few votes for Dubuque's player or Husson's player, which is too bad, and some other guys in there. But enjoy doing that. Looking forward to the championship weekend where we'll see the All-Star game in Salem on Saturday. And, of course, I'll be looking forward to calling that game as well. We get to talk to each of the athletes who are participating. That's always something that we enjoy. By the way, the coaching carousel, if you haven't noticed, is a-spinning. Coach Nessie out of NYU has announced that he's retiring. You might have remembered he missed the last a couple of games or a few games, the last 2 seasons due to health problems. So I suspect that playing a role. However, he had decided to hang things up, and congratulations to him, to say the least. We also have a few others. If you want, you can always follow things on our coaching carousel under the news category, to be sure. We hope you'll keep an eye on things. And we mentioned actually Van Haften. Forgot to mention this on the weekend. Brian Van Haften leaving Buena Vista after 414 wins and 9 NCAA tournaments. Resigned. He is actually going to take a position at NAIA Dordt College in Sioux Falls, Iowa, saying that he didn't want to end his career. I don't want to use the word, this is my word, coasting, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but you're with the same program, you're being the same success, you're driving yourself based on that program. He wanted a new challenge that might kind of drive him to the end. Can totally respect that. But Brian Van Haften moving on, and congratulations to him. Lots of other announcements that have been working their way through Division III. I think Aurora's women's coach may have left today. I need to double check that. I saw a tweet and didn't look into the details because I didn't have the opportunity. But that's already started, believe it or not, in Division III women's basketball. Yep, the head coach for women's basketball at Aurora has left. So it is that time of year. For example, they're talking. I think we're gonna know if lacrosse is going to keep Kent in place as the full-time coach or not. That job should be wrapping up soon. The Gettysburg job, I believe, is closed. We should start hearing names possibly about that. So lots going on, even in coaching, even though the season is not over. All right, so let's talk about who's coming on the show tonight. I figure that might be a good topic for all you Hoopsville fans. Talking to a who's who list, and a lot of coaches who are returning to the program. One who is new this season, not new overall, but new this season. We'll start things off with Bob Amsberry from number 2 Wartburg, women's basketball. Bob will join us to talk about his Knights and what's changed since midway through the season, if anything. Brian Morehouse from number 4 Hope will join us in the WBCA Center Court. Insightful conversation with Brian about the team, about him, his work with the WBCA. He even talks about one of his assistant coaches and much, much more. We talked to him in a wonderful interview coming up. We did pre-tape that one. Glenn Robinson from Franklin and Marshall men's basketball join us. Haven't talked to Glenn this season. I'm not sure why. I think it's one of those that sometimes when it turns around to come about that group in men's Mid-Atlantic, and we go, hey, let's talk Centennial. Then you look at recent results. You go, well, maybe let's come back to them, or maybe we can see them later. It's a complicated process. It really is. Anyway, we hadn't had a chance to talk to Glenn. We get to talk to Glenn. Talked to him earlier today. Charlie Brock from Springfield will join us. We had him on the NABC Coaches Corner earlier in the year. In an interesting moment, we really didn't talk a lot about the team. They had their struggles in December. They were starting the conference play. A lot has changed since that conversation. We'll talk to Charlie coming up. Eric Bridgeland returns. We haven't talked to him since the first traditional show of the season. We always talk to the preseason number ones. And in the last 2 weeks, we're getting back to those. Tufts, Carla Berube on the last show, and we're talking to Eric Bridgeland here coming up tonight. And then Jim Scheibel from number 16 Rochester Women returns to the show this year to talk about his Yellow Jackets. We'll talk about the challenge of RIT, familiar game being played in Amherst. And, of course, it's all being played at Amherst. So we'll talk to Jim about it all. And, of course, those are your guests, and you can ask us questions if you got them. Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Lots of ways to interact with us. Speaking of Facebook, we should check out the simulcast ongoing. Don't see anybody in there, but I know a few of you are watching. We appreciate your time. And many of you are watching on YouTube's channel, and we appreciate it. If you get into the YouTube page, you can chat with us there. But again, email, Twitter, and Facebook, all scrolling at the bottom of your screen. We hope you'll take advantage of those opportunities. Speaking of Glenn Robinson and F&M, there's a fan of F&M on Twitter who apparently thinks it's pretty classy of Coach to show up on the show, despite apparently how unfairly we treat the program at D3 Hoops and Hoopsville. I laugh at thee because maybe we talk about things that others don't talk about, or we're a little bit more neutral on things. But Glenn Robinson has been on the show quite often, and we have featured program quite often on D3 Hoops. So not really sure where the fandom comes from sometimes. By the way, somebody tweeted me and said the purchase Max Pierce is the only D3 dunker left in the Dark Horse community. Dark Horse Dunker Contest. I'm going to the website to confirm that, because I'm honestly, I don't remember if he's still in there. It's an interesting process. I really can't tell from the bracket, to be honest with you, of who's in there. But anyway, apparently, if that's true, keep up the good work, sir. So again, this weekend, sectionals. After this weekend, we'll know the final 4 teams headed to Rochester, Minnesota, and we'll know the final 4 teams headed to Salem, Virginia, on the women's and men's side, respectively, and lots to figure out. By the way, end of the show, we'll talk about the Jostens Trophy. We should our ballots were due today. I went through mine. I got some thoughts on the Jostens, some good thoughts. Don't worry, and we'll know the winners sometime soon. I think maybe early next week they're announced. If not, they're announced. There's a chance they're announced on Friday, but I don't think that's how they turn things around. Nonetheless, we'll talk about that at the end of the show as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Bob Amsberry from Wartburg joins me to talk about the Knights, talk about hosting the sectional weekend, and much more. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. We'll be back with more Hoopsville right after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Cameron Hill, head women's basketball coach at Trinity University, also a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
And thank you, sir, and welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this Thursday edition, our last Thursday show of the season, we believe. Next Thursday, we've done shows in the past. We haven't done shows in the last few years in Salem. We'll be hosting a coaches reception, though. All you coaches tuning in who are heading to Salem, be aware on Thursday evening that we will be rocking and rolling, as it were, at the Corned Beef. But then Friday and Saturday next week, we'll be live in pregame and postgame shows from the Salem Civic Center in men's basketball. So that's all still ahead here for Hoopsville, but we just won't be live on another Thursday show the rest of the season. All right, so let's talk about women's basketball, and we'll talk about the second-ranked team in the country, Wartburg, who may be overshadowed a little bit by Amherst, but it doesn't mean I don't know many voters who are considering at some point to switch their votes to the Knights. 29-0 this season. They went 16-0 in the conference, handled George Fox in their last game, and will take on a very tough Trine squad coming up. What does it all mean? Well, earlier today I got a chance to talk to their head coach, Bob Amsberry, who joined me to discuss, is their team any better? Now joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline, the head coach of the Wartburg Knights, the undefeated Knights. It is Bob Amsberry. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time.
You bet. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other part of this. Thanks for returning to the show this year. Nothing's changed since the last time we talked to you because you're still undefeated. 29-0, 16-0, you ended up finishing the conference. You know, this is a program you and I have talked about in the last couple of years that has made a huge turnaround from where it was. And now to be undefeated, getting to play at home the second weekend, be in the conversation of considered one of the best teams in the country, you got to feel pretty proud.
I do, Dave. This group, this senior group is really special, and they made a commitment a long, long time ago to change the culture, and they've successfully done that, and it's gotten better every single year. And this group they have no personal agendas, and they had that from day one. And they genuinely love each other and to be around each other and to make each other better. And so it's really been a dream for me.
Undefeated at this point. I'm pretty sure we're in rarefied air for you guys to some degree. Does that come with pressure, or at this point you're so far beyond where you probably expected to be anyway that it's just part of the day?
We don't really feel pressure because we haven't really thought about the big picture. We've thought about day by day, and going into each game, I felt like we could win each game. And our kids felt like that we could win each game. But when you sum it all up and think about that you won every game, that it really is pretty incredible that we didn't stumble along the way. But I think the last time we talked, I talked about this. Our group knows that we're vulnerable, and we know that if we're not good, that we can be beaten by about anybody. And so I think that makes us really good. We don't take anything for granted. We prepare the same way every single day. And I think that's why we are where we are.
You say you're vulnerable. I realize you're not going to give me the X's and O's and all the details in case someone's listening, but what do you mean by you're vulnerable?
We're beatable, and our kids know it. If we're not sharp, if we're not a good version of ourselves, we know we can be beat. And I just think that keeps us on edge a little bit because we've decided that losing isn't very fun.
Conference seemed to be competitive. I don't think it gave you guys as big a test as it has in the past, so Luther certainly was a pretty good squad this year. I go back to the midseason where you guys always have a tournament that always features tough opponents. And you handled Superior, as we talked about earlier, and Whitewater pretty easily as well. How much do you now go back to those games when talking to your team in this NCAA tournament, or do they also not have as much an effect since they were so long ago?
Well, we don't really talk about those. And I think if people look at our schedule and they see the results and the scores of games, they don't understand really what those games were like. The Whitewater game came down to the end, and we were fortunate to hit a run late, and Miranda Murphy really stepped up late, and she had 6 or 8 or maybe 10 in a row to stretch that lead out. But we were challenged, especially in November and December. We were on the ropes in several games. We were down by double digits in the second halves of games, and those games, when you just see the score, I think it's a little bit misleading. Our group had to really gut out some hard, tough wins, and we were able to successfully do that. And those instances have made us a lot better.
certainly better, to the tune of an undefeated mark. Now you go up against Trine, who has proven to be able to play with the best, taking Amherst to the wire, beating Hope once, and the other games going down to the wire as well. What do you make of the Thunder, and what do you think you guys can accomplish?
They're really, really good. I think they're probably the most disciplined team we've seen all year, and they defend extremely well, and we have our hands full. I think that it's going to be a really good game. I think either way, I think they're tough to prepare for, but I think we have a good plan, and our kids understand what we need to do to be successful. But I envision this is going to be a slugfest.
Slugfest, yeah. I also suspect low scoring. You guys aren't necessarily. You're kind of a hybrid. You don't mind putting up 80 some odd points a game. You also don't mind beating a team like Cal Lou 53-50. You seem comfortable in all.
Well, I mean, we'd rather probably score more, but we're defensive minded, and I think that was a big difference in the George Fox game. We defended as well as we have all year in that game, and we got it going on offense too. But we really hang our hat on playing great defense, and so that's our challenge this week. We need to defend well, and I think if we do that, we have enough weapons on offense that I think we can score.
Katie Summer, Miranda Murphy, Morgan Neuendorf, Aaron Jones, all double-point scorers. In the case of Jones, nearly double-point scorers. And we still have Christy Summer, Katie's sister, and Emma Gerdes to talk about as well. How much has this team evolved since we talked about this squad midway through the season?
We're pretty similar. I mean, we haven't changed a whole lot. We do have a lot of kids that can score it, and we're really unselfish. I think that we can score in so many ways. We can shoot the three well. We have several kids that can shoot it. Jones is really good inside, and her backup, Adrian Butger, is really solid inside. And then we've got some playmakers. Katie and Morgan are really good off the bounce and can set each other up. And we just have a really good mix of players that fit really well together. The strengths of our players really complement each other. And individually, we've talked a lot about this. Individually, we're not very good. We don't have a lot of players that can do it one-on-one, and our kids understand that we have to use each other. And when we use each other and set each other up, that's when we're at our best.
Your shooting percentages for the season are pretty astounding. 45% from the floor, which is 10% better than your opponents. You shoot 36% from beyond the arc. You're a 74% free throw shooter, especially in a season where the team like Amherst hasn't done so well on that. You out-rebound your opponents by about 7. Your assist-to-turnover ratio is pretty solid. You even have your fair share of blocks. Statistically, this team looks like it's very well-rounded, and you've kind of talked about that, and you've even talked about their flaws. What are you going to need to do to ensure that you're heading to Rochester next weekend?
Well, we're not really worried about that. We're trying to get to Saturday, and I said it earlier, but it starts on the defensive end for us. We've got to try to make it hard for them to score. And I thought over this past weekend, our defense really led the offense, and so that's what we're concerned about. I think if we're good on the defensive end, then we're going to have opportunities on the other end.
Well, it's fascinating where you guys have come in the last few years. Do you look back and do you know where the turning point truly was?
I do. This group as freshmen, we were good, but we weren't great. And I thought this group did a really good job of learning in that freshman year and made a commitment. They made a decision to be different, and that started with changing our culture. And not that we had necessarily bad culture, but we knew that it could be much, much better. And so we worked hard on that in their, kind of going into their sophomore season. We talked about what does it really mean to be a great team? And it's not about wins. It's not about championships. It's not about that. It's about treating each other the right way, challenging each other, holding each other accountable, to raise the bar every single year. And this group has done that. And I said it earlier that none of these guys have personal agendas, and it's just a matter of how good can we be when we are together and when we feed off of each other. And this group has done that, and it's really been amazing to me to watch them continue to grow and get better from last year to this year, even in that regard. And that's why we're really good. I think the culture was the first thing. We have enough talent, but then to put those together has led to a lot of wins.
It certainly has. I remember, in my opinion, the turning point was that year, and I don't remember if it was your freshman or sophomore for this class, where you guys had that big holiday tournament. You always have it, but you had those huge wins as an unranked team, and you propelled that into the NCAA tournament quite a bit that season. That certainly, I think, was the hello, we're here moment for a lot of us. Granted, we're on the outside, so it maybe have been a little later than you guys had. You're hosting this weekend. How important is that, too, for the school and for the program and for the department? And what has the school's reaction been?
Well, we're on break. So our students, most of them left last Friday, so they weren't
Tell them
here.
to come back, darn it all.
Right? But I got to tell you, the community of Waverly and the surrounding community has been unbelievable. I'll be out and about in the community, and someone will approach me that I've never met, and they'll say, "Wow, Coach, I just love to watch your team play." And those moments are really what gets me. But they do, and we had unbelievable crowds this past weekend, and not very many of those were students. And that was just really fun for me to see the interest that this group has generated from our community, and then the support that those folks have given us has really made me proud. We're fun to watch, and we got great kids, and they're active, getting to know some of those folks, and so that's been great. And then, the other part of this that our department, led by Rick Willis, our athletic director, and I'm not going to name everybody, but they wanted to put on a first-class weekend last week, and I'm pretty confident that the teams that were here, the players, they all had a great experience, and so that makes me really feel good about where I am and the support we're getting. And there's a lot of people around Wartburg and in our department that have put in countless hours to make these 2 weekends really special.
Well, like I said, pretty impressive. Still undefeated, still marching through the tournament with a chance to obviously move on to Rochester, though I know you're not looking past Friday night. As always, I appreciate you taking the time and enjoy catching up on the nights. And as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did it, but just the support that we get around here through the community and our support system with families and friends that come out to see us play and make this a great environment. And then our people here at Wartburg that work tirelessly to put on a great event. Really, really big thanks to them as well. Our kids feel special. And if it weren't for those folks, it'd be a lot different. And then I guess lastly, what you do for our game and the excitement you bring, the interest you bring, as always, thanks to all your work and the hours that you put in to make this a special thing.
Well, thanks, Coach. Appreciate the kind words. Good luck this weekend. I wish I was there. It'd been fun.
Well, you should be, Dave.
Fair. Unfortunately, challenges at home are going to keep me grounded a little bit. But sometimes you can't do everything you want with kids. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
But I appreciate your time. Good luck. I enjoy watching the games online and look forward to seeing how they turn out. And look forward to talking to you sometime down the road as well.
Sounds great, Dave. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bob Amsberry joining us from Wartburg here on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Once again, thanks to Bob Amsberry. Team is playing darn well. They're one of two undefeated teams still in the country in women's basketball in Division III. They were the one of two coming in. It's Amherst and Wartburg. By the way, they're set up. Those two teams are set up for an undefeated battle in the championship. I know there's still 3 games to be played between now and then, taking on a really tough Trine squad. And then on the other side, it's St. Thomas versus East Texas Baptist. Another fascinating game, to say the least. East Texas Baptist got a chance to practice at Northern Iowa earlier this week. Probably a pretty cool experience for them. But nonetheless, congratulations to Wartburg. Going to take another break. When we come back, we'll go to the WBCA Center Court and talk to Hope women's basketball coach Brian Morehouse. It is a tremendous conversation that I encourage you to listen to. Very forthright, very insightful, very, very, like a better term, deep. We talk a lot about what's it mean to be a coach and what's it mean to be a coach of this team. He's got a lot of great things to say. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play. Free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Rochester, Minnesota. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this Thursday edition of the show on this March 8th. I am your host, Dave McHugh. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. It'll also probably be our last WBCA Center Court segment of the year. I want to thank our partners at the Women's Basketball Coaches Association for their support and their help throughout the season. One of the topics we discussed was to have Brian Morehouse back on the show, this time in the WBCA Center Court. Team is 28-1, 15-1 in conference. Their lone loss is to Trine. But there's a lot more to Brian Morehouse. There's a lot more to his team, and there's a lot more to the community than just that record and what they are doing to prepare to take on a pretty tough team in Christopher Newport at the DeVos Center coming up this weekend. I talked to Coach earlier today about all of that, and he was rather forthright about what his team is facing, but also about what it means to be a mentor, be in the WBCA, and give back to the community. Here's what he had to say earlier today. Now joining us in the WBCA Center Court and on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline, it is the head coach for the 4th-ranked Hope women's basketball team. Brian Morehouse joins us on the line. And, sir, welcome back to the show.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So let's start with the team, and we'll get to all the other fun stuff here on the WBCA Center Court. You guys are playing in the second weekend of the tournament. You've only lost a single game, coming to Trine earlier, or late in January, I should say. And Christopher Newport is on the other side of things. I know you're thrilled with how the team has been playing, but wrap up the season so far in however you would describe it.
Great league season.
I think our league was the best it's ever been. A lot of depth, and I think it really helped prepare us. Obviously, some of our games going down the stretch in the league tournament, a couple overtime wins in the semi and the final to get the automatic bid into the national tournament. I thought gave us some momentum and some confidence heading into the national tournament, and then a really good first weekend where we played pretty well against Cornell, and I thought we played exceptionally well against Washington University.
You guys have played now 4 straight at home and 6 of your last 7. Home is so important. I know the DeVos Center in Holland is a special place for you guys. How important is it that you're still home trying to march your way to Rochester?
Well, I mean, given the alternative of going on the road, we'd prefer to be at home. But, as I told our team, when the selections were coming out, when I told them, it came down to a coin flip to see if we were going to be at home for our league tournament.
Yeah.
So I just continue to stress it's how you're playing, not who you're playing. It's how you're playing, not where you're playing. And, we've been fortunate enough to play, a couple home games here in a row, but I think the more important piece to the puzzle is how we're playing, and we hope that we can continue that this weekend.
Again, your one loss is to Trine. You've played them 3 times. The last time was in the conference championship. It was overtime, 68-62. The previous occasion we mentioned was the loss, 58-55, and you played them in the beginning of January, where you beat them 57-46 as they had come back from Vegas, having taken Amherst down to the wire as well. You talk about how more difficult the conference was. Certainly Trine was a big part of that conversation, but even Albion and Calvin had some pretty decent seasons, and you guys needed a buzzer beater to even get past Calvin. It really did feel like a really deep conference this year instead of one that you could, I don't want to say walk through because I don't think you've ever done that, but certainly you had to be ready every night.
No, the depth of our conference has improved dramatically over the last 6 or 7 years. We used to be a 1-bid league, and I felt like that was appropriate. Then I think we moved our way to a 2-bid league and deserved that. Last year we had a 3-bid league, which is highly unusual in AA Division III, but I really thought that we had 3 teams that could win games in the national tournament. And then, this year we've got 2 in, and obviously we're one of 2 leagues that just has 2 teams still standing, and I think that speaks volumes about the depth and also the talent in our league, but specifically Trine has had a great year, and I think that we have too.
How hard is it to keep up the level of play as expectations continue to climb? You don't lose more than 5 games in a season traditionally, but you've got to make sure the players are ready for the expectations that come with that, the pressures that come with making sure you're a winning program and all that. How do you guys approach that on a year-to-year basis and even in season?
I think we reset, honestly, every year. We lose good players. We hope good players in. But each year is unique in and of itself. And I'm a big believer that in Division III you can't build momentum. You better start off winning right away, or else you won't have a chance to be in the national tournament. And every game is of equal importance. So we stress every single day of practice, and I'm sure that every coach in America doesn't give up a practice and say, well, this one doesn't matter. But I do think we stress that. And, we don't let up on games. I mean, whether we're playing the last place team in our league or the first place team in our league, I think that we go out and we spend an equal amount of time on the scouting report, and we try to do things the right way each day so that they become habits.
What might scare some people about your team is while you have 4 seniors on it, it's really the underclassmen who are leading the way, at least statistically. Francesca Buchanan, a junior, 12.5 points a game and 8 rebounds. You have a freshman in Kennedy Schoenfeld, 11.5 points a game, 3.5 rebounds. And then a senior in Madison Gears at 10 points. Victoria Swift, a junior, at 5 points. Olivia Voskul, a freshman, at 5 points. And Lauren Newman, a freshman, at 5 points. You get so much out of so many players, and some are so ready to play when they walk on campus. That's part of keeping the engine running, as it were, is it not?
I think we're very fortunate that we've got a great academic school. And if you go up and down our freshman class, when you say that we've got kids they come in ready to play, they came in ready academically, first and foremost. And that was the biggest reason that they came. I have 2 nurses. I have an engineer. I have a young woman that wants to do medical social work. We have a businesswoman, and then our 6th one is a physician's assistant. And so they were looking, yes, they're very good basketball players, but they were looking for a place that they could go that would allow them to balance out those 2 things, hopefully be in a winning basketball program, but in 3.5 or 4 years, be able to graduate from our school and go on and do what their goals were that they had laid out for them. And, I think our freshmen, their grade point average after the first semester was a 3.9 for those 6 kids. And, I'm talking, they're taking classes I can't even spell. And so, they're really a talented group academically, extremely driven. And it shows up on the basketball court because they're driven on the court as well.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder. I was going to ask if they were actually good basketball players or wanted to play basketball to some degree with all those other ways that they are excelling, certainly in the on the campus and in the classroom. Is there any? So I guess the trick question: is there anything this team does not well, especially at this point in the season?
Well, I never think we rebound well enough, so I'll start with that. I'd say we turn the ball over too much, but that's because we have turnovers, period. I'm pretty hard to satisfy. I'm getting older and crankier. The longer I do this and just have a high expectation of the way the game's supposed to be played. But this team has been, an absolute joy. And everybody say, well, how can it not be? You're winning. Not that. I love this team. Is they are, even though we're young, we've got 6 freshmen, we've got 3, maybe 4 sophomores. They're one of the best practicing teams I've ever had. Like, they compete in practice. They concentrate in practice. The number of bad practices that we've had this year since October 15th, I can count on one hand and probably wouldn't need all 5 fingers. Show up and they want to be there. And I think that is, just talking to my friends, around the nation at Division II and Division I and Division III level, it's hard to keep kids interested. We have the longest season, the longest of anybody. And to keep them fresh, to keep them interested, have them come in and compete day by day, and, maintain that competitive ness with their teammates, and yet have it be appropriate competitiveness. You don't want fistfights breaking out. You want kids, helping each other up off the floor after going after a ball and saying, hey, way to go, you beat me to that one. I got the next one or something like. We have that great vibe going in our basketball program, which I'm guessing there are 15 other teams have going on right now too, because you can't win with a bad vibe, bad chemistry.
Sure. Speaking of those other teams who may have that going, it's Christopher Newport ahead, the 18th ranked captains. You'll get to play at home against Christopher Newport, but they certainly bring a little bit of a different nuance. You're used to tough-minded defensive teams. You play Trine 3 times this year. This is a tough defensive-minded team in a completely different way. How you guys prepping?
That's great. And just understanding, how they're trying to speed you up. I have great respect for their coach. You know, he was at Bucknell, and I know a lot of people at Bucknell still right now. And, you know, he just gets everything out of his kids, and they can switch. I mean, they can switch the tempo of the game. They get great shots every time down the floor. You know, you look at the matchups that are left in the United States right now, and not too many people are signing up to play Christopher Newport. And that's where I think the rankings can lie a little bit. You know, they played a strong, very strong schedule. And, you know, they played Thomas More earlier in the year, and I think their league is good with, you know, Marymount and some other schools there. So I just think that they're battle-tested, having gone to the Final Four last year. You always want to play the people that haven't been there. You know, I mean, like, when it's new, it's, you know, it's a lot better to play teams that haven't ever been. When they've been there, you know, like his team has, you know, they expected to get here. You know, a couple of losses wasn't going to dissuade them from, you know, their end goal of, you know, getting to the Final Four and win the national championship. So they expected to be playing this weekend, and it should be a great game. You know, we've got to limit our turnovers. They rebound the ball exceptionally well. I mean, exceptionally well. So that's going to be a huge part of the ball game.
I have a feeling you're seeing game tape in your sleep right now, or you've passed sleep up for game tapes. One of the two. Let's transition a little bit here into the WBCA part of the Center Court segment, because there's a couple fascinating things that are going on. First and foremost, you're pretty heavily involved in the WBCA as a conference captain and the work that you do there. How important is that to you, and why dedicate your time to that organization to some degree?
Well, you know, it starts off with some of the things that I was taught by other coaches when I took over 22 years ago, and they would say them to me, and I'd shake my head yes, especially in the first couple of years. But when you're a young coach, you're just trying to win a couple games so you get to keep your right. Yep. And so you get into like year 2 and year 3, and the same people are saying the same things to you. The Dixie Jeffers of the world, the Sherry Harris, you know, the people that you respect so much, the Nancy Fahey's, and they're like, you got to keep giving back to the game. You got to keep giving back to the game. You know, part of our job is to give back to the game. And I started to understand that, you know, this wasn't just lip service. You know, this was something that was a part of my job description, whether it be from Hope College, not really, but as my job description as a women's basketball coach. It's our job to push the game of women's basketball ahead, whether it's with, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, or whether it's with our women and instilling them the values that the WBCA believes in, and serving others and growing our game, you know, community service. It just is an important part. And as a part of that, I think it's an important thing to mentor young coaches. You know, when new coaches get hired, whether they be in our league or if I know another league, you know, I make a point in reaching out to them and just saying, when I was young, Charlie Goffnett of Alma called me up the first day I got the job, and he said, what do you need? Give me a call. Here's my number. I know it's going to seem overwhelming. I want young coaches to succeed. And that stayed with me ever since that phone call. And, you know, anytime I did need anything, I could call up him. I could call up Greg Affman. I could call up Kathy Morris from Adrian and ask them questions when I didn't know, you know, either how to schedule or, you know, how to interact with a certain tough situation within my team, or, you know, how to mentor my players or how to help them get jobs. And they were always there for me. And my goal is to be there for other coaches and my players and the young people that want to play basketball growing up.
You talk about giving back, and of course, the WBCA, part of a lot of coaches' lives is mentoring. And you have a coach in your wings on your staff who's not only a former player, but she's somewhat of a rising star in the coaching realms now. Courtney Cust, I know, means a lot to this program. What does she mean to you?
I mean, she's just a unique, amazing. I mean, it's hard for me to talk about her just because I care so much. I mean, she just is. She played at Hope. She came back to Hope as an assistant, not because she didn't have other alternatives. I mean, the woman could be working for Google, Apple, and anywhere she wants. I mean, she is that talented of a person. And yet she came back and she said, I want other people to have the experience that I had at Hope. I want our women, and I want to impact people on our campus the way I was impacted by my professors, by other coaches from other sports, by the assistant coaches, in the women's basketball program. I want to be that person. And, this last summer she led a program to Costa Rica with a group of with a group of students on our campus. She does such an amazing job living into the community, impacting young people in our community. And then you can't even start with what she does for our basketball program. Every one of our players, if somebody asks them, what about Courtney Cust? And you go, they'll all say the same thing. And it sounds cliche, but they're like, in Cust we trust. And I'm like, and they truly, truly believe it. And, she brings them into her office and talks to them. But not just about how the weather is. I mean, she's living into these young women on, hey, this is how you carry yourself. I mean, this is the right thing to do. This is, what do you need help with? Where are you struggling in your life? Where do you feel like you're excelling? How can I help you? And it's not just basketball. And to me, that's the beauty, that these women are going to go on in their lives, our players, and they're going to have been impacted by Courtney Cust. And they're going to go out, and guess what? They're going to impact other people. And I call that the multiplier effect, because her impact then impacts them, and then they go out and impact other people. And before you know, you've got this spider web that goes all over the place where her influence is being felt in ways that she doesn't even realize.
Certainly seems that she's learned from the best in that category then, because you certainly give back and impact others. You're involved with Special Olympics events with your team during the season. You're also involved with coordinating what's called the Millennium Triathlon in Grand Rapids. I hope Calvin's not paying attention. 100% owned and operated by the Hand Up Fund, which is an organization that helps disadvantaged children in West Michigan. What does it mean to you to be involved in those organizations and to give back to the community in the way you do? I know I'm supposed to say, my job is to win and, do all these other things. I get as much, if not more, satisfaction out of, trying to impact my community, but not just my community, because it stretches, all the way into Grand Rapids and south of Holland and north of Holland. And, I just think that there are young people that are out there that are either economically, physically, mentally, they don't have some of the great things that I was privileged to have growing up. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up on a farm, shoveling up the barn, but I still grew up in a pretty great situation, in my opinion. And I just want to make sure that every kid, the reason we call it the Hand Up Foundation is, because I started it with one of my college roommates, and we want young people to have the things that they need to make a better life, and it might be, working with kids that are in Special Olympics and, making sure that they have the greatest day of their life when we go play at the Miracle League, which is a baseball field in Grand Rapids on synthetic turf. It might be, helping the Boys and Girls Club out in Grand Rapids and, impacting their organization by giving them iPads, so that they've got a huge room full of iPads that their kids can work on and become more technologically adept and be able to move out into the world, just more equipped to reach their true potential. So, our whole point is, and my whole goal is to help people reach their potential. And whether it's in basketball, whether it's a young person on our campus, whether it's a kid that's in Special Olympics, whether it's a player on my team, I just want everybody to reach their potential and understand that don't let anybody limit you. Don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. Believe in yourself, and know that there are people that will get behind you and help you reach your goals. I think I can figure out why people want to play with you, Coach. Certainly inspirational, and if that message gets across even halfway to your players, I can see why they're successful. Before we let you go, we do have a little fun and ask a couple questions that we ask all of our coaches in the WBCA Center Court. They're off the top of your head, so you don't have to think them too through. But if you don't mind, we'll do that and see what you say to some of these.
I love it. Fire away.
All right, so the first one is, and I think I'm getting a sense of this one already. What's your favorite thing about coaching, especially in Division III?
Relationships with my players.
Yeah. If you have, what would be your biggest pet peeve?
People that judge other people.
Good one. Do you have a favorite rule or a favorite nuance to the game?
Right now it's advance the ball.
Oh, you and I will talk some other time.
Come on, man. That's
No.
a great rule for women's basketball, and men should be adapting.
No.
Let's go.
I've seen it used. I've seen it used in ways I don't like.
Okay, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Yes, I can agree with that. When you're advancing the ball to avoid being pressed,
yes,
that is a problem.
Drives me insane.
I agree with that.
Drives me insane.
I agree with it. I agree with you.
Yeah. Seen it way too much this year, actually, ironically enough. Any pregame ritual or superstition?
When I'm at home,
I talked to a kid from special needs young man who I've known since for 20-some years, and I don't know how it started, but he always comes down to the bench, and we just talk about how his week's going. And I don't know how it started, and I don't think it helps me win, but I love it because I get to talk to Tori, and he's a special kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's 20-something years old, but it's just a great relationship.
That's cool. How would your assistants describe you as a coach? That might be a trick question. I understand.
What day? It would be part-time cranky old man. It would be part-time, giving. It would be, thinking outside the box, never quite knowing what they're walking into in practice. It would be all those things combined.
That's awesome. Now we're going to call
I'm
up.
really not cranky. I don't believe I'm cranky. I think that's a bad rap that I'm getting.
Clearly it's coming out, though.
Holding people accountable.
That's awesome. Finally, when you retire, because all good coaches eventually do, what do you hope people will remember you as a coach?
Somebody that cared, somebody that when they dropped their daughter off as a freshman, that she walked out of this institution even a better person than what she walked in, and that she was equipped to move out into the world and do great things, not just in her job, but in all aspects of her life.
Wonderfully said. Thank you so much for taking the time. Good luck this weekend. I always enjoy our conversations, but I'll have to admit, I think this one might be one of the best. Great to get insight on you and the team and those around you. Appreciate you doing that for us. As always, you give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuning in?
Appreciate your work with the WBCA and your partnership. I think it's incredibly important for the game of women's basketball, and the role that you serve as a voice for specifically Division III cannot be understated. It is an incredibly important part of why we have advanced the game of Division III women's basketball.
Wow, thank you. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. Good luck this weekend, and I'll look forward to talking to you sometime down the road.
Thanks a lot. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. He is Brian Morehouse, 4th-ranked Hope women's basketball team in the WBCA Center Court, joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Once again, thanks to Brian Morehouse for joining us. Insightful interview. Didn't I promise that? It was. Terrific. Words from him. I appreciate him taking the time. Once again, they will be busy this weekend as they host Christopher Newport. Of course, on the other side of that bracket is a doozy of a set of games as well. Should be fun at Hope at the DeVos Center. Wish I could be there. That could be a lot of fun. Going to take another break. When we come back, Franklin and Marshall men's basketball coach Glenn Robinson joins me to talk about his team making it through the Centennial Conference on to the second weekend, and just how incredible Brandon Federici has been to his program. The first 2,000-point scorer in the history of F&M men's basketball. It's mind-blowing to me. We'll talk to him about it. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Back with more after this.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope to see you in Salem and or Rochester. I won't be in Rochester, but our staff will. For the men's and women's championships, we hope to see you there. One of the teams who would love to get back to that is Franklin and Marshall. Team is playing pretty decent this season, as many have noticed. But it was interesting. They ended up finishing third in the Centennial Conference this year. What does it all mean? Well, Glenn Robinson has one of the more special players in program and Centennial Conference history. Earlier today, I talked to him about being in this position in the NCAA tournament, trying to get to Salem, and the story of Brandon Federici. Now joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline, it's the head coach for Franklin and Marshall. It is Glenn Robinson. And, sir, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Guys have had an interesting season. I don't know if expectations were high or not. I think a lot of people came in not really knowing how the Centennial Conference was going to kind of shake out this season. So thus, I think by default, F&M kind of was everyone's favorite along with Swarthmore. 22-6, you're heading to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. You've got to be probably pretty pleased with how this season's broken down.
Oh, obviously. I mean, when you start out in October, our only goal is to reach our potential. And we have 9 freshmen this year, so it was a little difficult to predict what our potential was. We knew we had some good return players, obviously, but with 9 freshmen, that's over half the team. And so we had no idea how this thing was going to work out. And to be still playing at this point, obviously we're elated.
Sure. The conference race was interesting. Swarthmore, again, kind of in the conversation as expected. And you actually got the win over them in the first meeting in mid-January. But it was Johns Hopkins who kind of came storming in under first-year head coach Josh Leffler this year. And then the rest of the conference was kind of there. It turned into a 3-horse race. Did that kind of catch you guys a little bit by surprise, or did you expect to maybe have that be a deeper race than many others thought?
No, I didn't think it was a surprise. Obviously, they had some great players returning.
Mm-hmm.
We had utmost respect for both Doran and Gardner, and then we didn't know about it at the time, but they got two great freshmen that started right away. So I thought it might be a 4-horse race, to be honest with you, starting out. I think it would have been, but Dickinson had one of their key players get injured and basically loses.
Yeah.
So turned into that, but I certainly would be lying if I said I predicted that way from the beginning. I actually thought it might be a 5-horse race.
Interesting.
Because Ursinus was returning so many players, and they had such a great pride that we thought they would pose a tremendous problem. And, I mean, it did. It just ended up that the three of us kind of pulled away, and then we all fought each other, and at one point everybody had beaten everybody else. And, so no surprises. Our games, I mean, we ended up losing by 1 point and 2 points, and one was in overtime. And then we had the last shot each time, so we couldn't have been any closer.
So, again, you guys, the end of the season a little rough, lost 3 of the last 5, but again, you were playing the top of the conference. You played Hopkins twice, unfortunately losing twice to them, one in a double overtime thriller, and then you played Swarthmore, counting the conference tournament. Was it hard to keep the team maybe mentally in it, knowing there was a chance you could make the NCAA tournament with just how rough that season ended a little bit?
No, there was none of that. It was, it's kind of next game up, and you do the best you can. And I don't think we had a great deal of thought about the NCAAs until we were walking out of the gym after the Hopkins game in the conference playoffs. And, I mean, you give it everything you have. We totally respect them and how they played and everything, but it was a 1-point game. We had the last shot. Had enough time to get off a good shot, so we're blaming ourselves. And then you start looking, and is it possible the Centennial can get 3 teams in the tournament? Obviously, from our perspective, of course, we're the best. The conference was so unbelievably close, but we all know that's a difficult task, and just can't count on it. Obviously, it turned out that way, and I think the people that decided that have been rewarded because we all won the first game, and 2 of us are still alive. So clearly, it was justified.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. First weekend, interesting back and forth game against Emory and Henry. Kind of then put your foot down the last 12 minutes of that game and pulled away. Christopher Newport ended up winning by 14. Those games kind of work out the way you thought. What were you guys able to take advantage of that got you those victories?
Well, both games were very similar in that they were really close. And, we had just a small working margin, and then the other team made a run. In one case, they took the lead. In the other case, they almost took the lead. And then we just stepped up our defense, and our defense created a lot of easy baskets for us. So, in a way, both games were similar in that respect. From a coaching angle, I was really pleased with our kids. I mean, obviously, you're on the road, you're playing really high-level competition, and they had been really successful. And so we had to overcome what had been going on in their season and make it go our way. And I was kind of upset all season long. I felt like we played well enough to win every game, but sometimes not all 40 minutes. And I felt like in the NCAA, we played all 40 minutes. Obviously, supported because of it.
When you talk about this team, what I found interesting is that you seem to have, and I saw you guys a couple times this year, you seem to have an interesting mix of seniors and youth that even late in the season seem to all still be trying to figure out how to gel and play together. And the key, I thought, was in the past, I think Brandon Federici wanted the ball a lot more, wanted to be maybe in control a lot more. And I seem to notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed that like he kind of turned towards his teammates a little bit more this year. He still scored his fair share, but he was more than willing not to be the man for minutes at a time.
Well, I don't think there was any intentional change of direction. I think the team morphs from one thing to another, and as you have more qualified teammates to do the scoring, he's always been a willing passer and a willing screener. And, we've always tried to improve those aspects along the defensive side, but he's always been willing to do it. Some games, there wasn't any way we were going to win, and then he got 25-plus points. And that's not as true this year. We have more scoring. Matt Tate, his backcourt mate, has been a really talented player. Mm-hmm. He's battled injuries his whole career. And he's still a little dinged up right now, but he's able to do his end of the scoring. He's always been capable of that, but in some cases physically not able. And so that alone has helped spread the load around and make Brandon feel like he can share the ball a little bit more. And then, we miss Slika and J.C. McGrath also. Potent scorers in certain types of games. So there's another two guys in the lineup. And then we had, Matt Grohl and Matt Redhead, a couple of freshmen, have started to really show that they can score. And so bottom line without all this is he has more teammates that are capable of scoring and probably even more attention paid to him defensively by the opponent. So it's just kind of a natural thing that has worked out. But I think his scoring averages are almost identical. I don't think he's backed off at all. It's just that maybe we've scored a few more as a team and it's been spread around a little bit more.
Yeah, it definitely seems, his scoring averages are about the same. But it does, you're right, he seems to have more options. Of course, he is a Jostens finalist. We'll know the winner announced in the very near future. But he also was the program's first ever 2,000-point scorer, the conference's first ever 2,000-point scorer. You've been around coaching a long time, and it to me, I find it surprising that he's the first to break that 2,000 plateau. You've had a lot of really good players. What's different about him than anybody else who's worn a Diplomat's jersey? Wow, that is a great question. I wish I had a great answer. It really is. It's just, it is strange. We have had, I think, 25 All-Americans and lots of other good players besides that. And many of them potent scorers, and none of them got to that mark. I mean, it's a really high mark. That's the only thing I can say is it's really difficult to achieve. But why no one's ever done it? We've had other players play as many games, so that would be the first thing I would look at is, wow, if this team goes deeper into the postseason and got more games. But that's not true. We've had a lot of other players play the same number or even a couple more games. So he just has been so consistent. There's never been a lull in his scoring. He's played hurt. He's done this. He's done that. He's played every defense in the book against him. But he always seems to get his point. And he does that game after game, year after year. I say it's just a credit to him that he's the first to do it. Yeah, certainly impressive. And then we won't even get into looking through the Jostens nomination, just how many other things he's involved in outside of basketball and a tremendous student athlete, or just student in general. It's certainly impressive. You guys have a head Ramapo at Ramapo. We should be pointing out, we're talking to you as you head out there in the Sweet 16 here, 2 wins away from returning to Salem. Let me first start with, what do you need to do, especially against Ramapo, to get through this weekend?
Well, obviously, Ramapo's a formidable opponent, and then playing them on their floor. They're undefeated at home, so they not only are a good team, but they're especially good at home. They have an individual star in Bonnicum, All-American, just very, very tough. What makes him difficult is he has good size, 6'6", good bulk. He's not skinny, he can move off his place or anything. But even more than that, he can score off the dribble, he can score off the pass, he can score with his back to the basket. and he can score from 3-point range. So just all by himself, he's a load. And then, they have 6 or 7 other players with great scoring ability, and their third leading scorer comes off the bench, so you don't even get a break when they substitute. So they're going to be tough. Obviously we've been looking at them and trying to see what we can do to minimize their opportunities to score and maximize our chances at fast break. But until we actually get on the floor with them, a lot of these things are questionable because they don't do very many complicated things. They just do basic things well and quickly. And you look at some of the plays, and it's very simple in design, but run very well and executed by players with a lot of skill. And so, to me, that's the toughest thing in the world to battle is just they have really good players, and they're really basic sound.
If you win this weekend, you'll return to Salem, where you have been several times before, and Salem most likely hosting for the final time in men's basketball. Is that significant to you? Does that mean something to try and be back there for a final time?
Well, like you need additional meaning to want to get to the Final Four, but actually it would. I love Salem. I was on the NCAA committee when we considered Salem. We were up in Buffalo and we were looking for other sites, and so I was a small part in helping get it there, and I've been extremely pleased with how they've handled it, and obviously everybody else has because they've broken every record as far as being a host.
Yeah.
And they have all the things you need. Carrie Harvey Cutter is the director of that facility, and he just does a marvelous job. Great guy. He's really into his job, does it thoroughly, has a way of making everybody feel important, kind of like he's doing what you need to have done. It's a nice facility. The area gets behind it. They have business sponsors. I just think it's been a great venue. And, I understand we have to move it around and all that, but it would be really nice personally to be able to be one of the last teams to play there.
Well, we certainly wish you luck this weekend on making that possibly happen. Obviously a tough task in New Jersey, but everybody at this point has a tough task ahead of them. We will let you go, but we'll always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I just think Division III basketball is such a fabulous thing. You have true student athletes, and we're on D3 Hoops, and I was around when D3 Hoops started, and it has done so much for Division III basketball. It's just unbelievable how much more popular it's gotten and how much information is disseminated. I mean, that's the first thing every one of us does. You play a game and you get on D3 Hoops and see how everybody else is doing. Or you finish practice and you get on there and you see what's happening. And, we didn't have that when we started. So it's been a great thing. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Well, thank you, sir. Congratulations on yet another successful career for you, or season for you. I don't even talk about the career with you anymore. We'll wait until you decide to hang them up, and I'm figuring that's another 10, 15 years away. Thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. Good luck this weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Glenn Robinson joining us from Franklin and Marshall on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Once again, thanks to Glenn Robinson for joining us. I appreciate him taking the time earlier today. They had a little bit of challenges trying to get to Ramapo. Of course, remember, northern New Jersey got hit with quite a bit of snow, including the rest of New England. I'm jealous for that fact, just for the record. But it caused some problems. But they're up there, and they've practiced, and they're getting going. So congratulations. We mentioned Federici and some of the things that I read on the Jostens. I'll talk more about the Jostens, but I just wanted to read later in the show, but I just wanted to read a couple notes about Brendan. Dean's List and Honorary List. Every semester he's been at F&M, maintaining a 3.7 GPA. As a business, organizations, and society and Italian joint major. Yeah. What else? He's co-founder of Urban Pages, a organization that has collected more than 5,000 books and distributed them to the Jersey Shore Medical Center Children's Clinic and communities in the state of New Jersey. Supports Soul for Souls, another shoe drive to benefit, our annual shoe drive to benefit the children of New Jersey, and co-founder of Promote to Vote, an organization that helps raise political awareness and voter registration. Also volunteers at the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen. It is a tutor for writing and SAT preparation in Monmouth County, New Jersey, and is involved with Souls for Souls, as we mentioned, as well, plus everything else that he does. So Brendan Federici, one of those incredible student athletes on the Jostens nominations. We'll talk more about them later. Running a little bit behind, going to take another break. When we come back, Charlie Brock joins us live from Springfield to talk about his squad and what he expects in the second weekend from the Pride. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Rochester, Minnesota. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this program on Thursday evening. We're running a little behind, so we're going to keep the pace up a little bit next. Switching into men's basketball, talking Northeast, one of the teams that is certainly showing they're pretty darn good right now is Springfield. Went down to Cabrini last weekend in the Philadelphia area and defeated Albright by 2 in a delayed game and then beat Cabrini the next night by 8. Their reward, they're back in the Philadelphia area. They traveled down to Swarthmore. They'll take on Hamilton, who they're at least somewhat familiar with, at least in the fact of the NESCAC. What's interesting is the last time we had Charlie Brock on the show, we had him on as part of the NABC Coaches Corner when we returned from the holiday break, and they had just lost their 6th game in 8, losing to Babson. It was a turnaround point. The team probably playing a lot different now than they were then, and certainly were playing a lot different after than they were then. Joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach for the aforementioned Springfield Pride. It is Charlie Brock. And, Coach, welcome back to the show, as always, sir.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. So, again, you had lost 6 of 8 last time I talked to you. And, again, it was more about the NABC Coaches Corner and the work you did there than necessarily about the team, though we touched on the team. You've only lost 2 since. What's the difference in that stretch you guys went through then and what you guys ended up doing in the new MAC?
I don't know if there's a big difference, Dave. I think, you know, the look at it, I look at it a little bit before that when we went to Texas and we played 5 games in 9 days and, you know, good, really, really good teams with Trinity and Williams and Amherst, and then going to Texas and playing good teams at Trinity University down there. And I think having a little bit of a break and getting collected again and coming back, we were able to win our tournament and won a great game against Wesleyan, and then got into the conference. And we kind of recently have responded well to getting punched in the mouth. And that was the case in those 5 games that we lost. It was the case when we lost to Babson. It was the case when we lost to Wheaton kind of midway through the NUMAC schedule down there. And then it was, again, the same situation where we thought we might have lost the opportunity to do anything further when we weren't able to get it done against WPI in our playoff at home, which it was a pretty good punch, I'll tell you.
If you're good at taking punches and responding to them, then that's not a bad thing if you're a head coach to have for a program.
I've been taking those punches all my life, I'll tell you.
That's true. But if your team's doing it, they're learning something from you, I guess.
Right.
But what's really interesting is you play somewhat a lot of players, but you're not a deep team. I think we touched on that last time. You basically play everybody you have for a unit. But it's not like you've got 15, 20 guys on this team and can go deep. You're asking everybody to contribute.
We really are. We've actually gone, I don't know how long it's been. We had 2 injuries early on, and we've had 10 guys in practice for pretty much all of January, February, and March, which it makes it interesting with practice. You get a whole lot more done in a whole lot less time. But it's, it's a good group, and the roles have been defined. I think that was part of getting better. Guys got more and more comfortable. And I think most of all, the guys just decided it was time, and 3 seniors decided that they were going to make something of this season. And they did that by putting a stamp on winning the NUMAC regular season championship. It was a pretty neat thing that they just decided that they wanted to put a stamp on the program and have it be the body of work.
Were you at all nervous when you guys dropped your game to WPI, and I think, was that the semifinals or of the NUMAC? Were you guys nervous at all that was it? That was the end of the season? Or did you think you had a chance to get in?
Do you mean like nervous as they picked 63 teams and we were one more on the bracket?
Oh, I was going to get to that next.
Nervous?
I was going to get to that next. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was. And you know what? The thing is, David, there's so many good teams. It's so hard. I'm sitting here and we're playing, and there's so many deserving teams. I mean, we went down to the regional last week playing Albright and Cabrini, who are 2 really, really good teams, well coached. There's a lot of good teams, and if you don't win the automatic, then you're put in a very small pool with a whole lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult, and we were fortunate and very grateful.
Yeah, you mentioned the bracket announcements, and I was sitting there as I don't see the brackets I see the bracket ahead of time, but I don't see how they're going to produce them ahead of time. And usually they reveal 2 or 4 teams at a time. And as I'm listening to Kyle release them, I realized, and I can't see what they're doing either. I had the back end look. It was just the tech side. And I thought to myself, I think they revealed Springfield absolutely last without them knowing. I wonder how Springfield's going to react to this. The video you guys sent out is priceless because it is truly waiting to the final selection. How tense was that room getting?
It was pretty stressful. The moment was one that's a memory that we'll never, I don't think anybody that was in that room will ever forget. So it was very, very special, and with a great group of guys to be in the room with, I can tell you.
Curious, were you putting together your, okay, guys, we didn't make it speech, and here's what we're going to do next? How close were you to having that formulated versus the, hey, we're headed, so let's talk about this instead?
Well, I always have both speeches ready at all times.
Of course you did.
Yes.
All right, talk about Albright and Cabrini. You mentioned being good teams, good competition, and obviously a 2-point win over Albright and then an 8-point win over Cabrini. Those games showed me you're very comfortable going with a little bit of a higher-paced game. You showed that earlier in the season as well. I've also seen games like against MIT where you're willing to go a little bit more slow-paced. 69-62 was your win last time against MIT. Are you comfortable that way, that you can adapt, or have you been forced into adapting, maybe is the better question?
Well, I think we're good at adapting.
Okay.
And we've got the kind of kids that are, and I think a lot of that comes from some senior leadership. We've got 2 juniors actually that have contributed greatly. and then 2 sophomores, and one of whom is our best player statistically, and in Jake Ross. And so we've been able to adapt. I mean, the scores, especially the Cabrini game to play in the 90s, we probably typically are more in the low 70s, and that's where our comfort level is. But they're just a very athletic team. It was we got ahead of both teams, and they pressed us. So it got to be an up and down game a little bit, and we were able to survive that kind of tempo. And we shot the ball really well last weekend. That certainly was a factor. We had some timely free throw shooting. We rebounded and defended okay, and just got some nice contributions from some guys, Kevin Durkin and Ben Diamond, who's a senior and doesn't play all that much, ended up playing 27 minutes because of foul trouble. So it was an interesting, everybody, doing their role and doing the right thing and contributing.
You have Hamilton ahead. You're certainly familiar with NESCAC teams. You mentioned the win over Wesleyan back at the end of December. You're not afraid to take. You played Williams and Amherst on top of that, along with Trinity, Connecticut. It's certainly part of your bread and butter. What do you see in this Hamilton squad? What are you expecting from that game?
Really, really good team. Very deep. They play 11, 12 guys in significant time periods and minutes. Their forwards are very mobile, which presents some, matchup problems probably for everyone. They shoot the ball well, and above all, they're very, very aggressive in all facets of the game. They're aggressive on the boards. They play defensively very aggressively, and they go right at you offensively with very good players. And they're a very good team that was number 1 in New England for a good part of the season, I believe. So it'll be a good test for us.
When you look at the other side of that bracket, I know you're not looking too far ahead because you want to focus on Hamilton, but when you do look at that other side, do you see anything there that interests you, or is it just as scary maybe as the matchup on Friday?
I don't, Dave, and I don't mean to be a contrarian, but I haven't paid any attention at all to Swarthmore or Plattsburgh other than to know what they've done during the course of the year. I haven't looked at them at all. I'm worried about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it tomorrow night. And then if we're fortunate enough to be able to play a game on Saturday, then I'll worry about them on Saturday morning.
Trust me, when I ask that question, I know where it could absolutely lead. So I ask it at my own risk, as they say.
Understood.
By the way, what's it like to be back in Philadelphia second weekend in a row? Are you enjoying it?
I tried to convince our president to let me teach all the kids their classes and just hang around for the week, but she wasn't buying it.
No, not surprised. The weather.
We're happy to be back. We'll go wherever wherever. We're not fussy.
You're loving the weather though. You guys have had to deal with a couple nor'easters.
We have, but actually we did play it fairly okay. We left at 6:00 this morning, and it was clear sailing down. The storm up in our way was over, and I think it was actually over earlier down here, and so it was a normal ride coming down.
Good. I know it's well down, and I know you will be there. All-Star voting took place in the last couple of days, and the All-Star game will come up, and you're very much involved with what the NABC does in Salem. I know you're looking forward to being there. Would it mean? I know it would mean something special to have the team there, but have you even dared to even think that at this point, or is there too much work ahead?
Not even thinking about it.
Yep. I figured.
No, not even thinking about it. Yep. And that's just the here and now, and we got to get guys to believe in what they're doing today and how it impacts what they're doing tomorrow.
Sure. Before I let you go, I know the senior class is important and means a lot to you, but Jake Ross has certainly been a special player in New England. What's he meant to this program, and how do you keep from drooling knowing you've got 2 more seasons with him?
I got to tell you Jake's story. We were practicing at Cabrini last weekend, and immediately following the practice, we were going to watch some film up in the classroom. And let's just say it was 12:30, and it gets to be 12:35, and there's no Jake. So I start getting ticked off, and I said, "Where the hell's Ross?" Well, it turns out he's out in the gym rebounding for a 12-year-old kid that was hanging out in the gym, and he didn't want to leave the kid. So he does a lot of things. He's a great player. His consistency is certainly one of his strengths. He's able to finish. He's strong, makes threes. The rebounding that he does is probably the most significant thing I see in making him a unique player. And he's our point guard, so he's our leading rebounder, and then he brings the ball up. It's very interesting. And last but not least, teams have tried to do things to stop him, thinking that if they can stop Jake, they can stop Springfield, and he's very, very astute. He sees double teams coming and takes advantage of them. And, you know, you can't teach a kid to pass. You can teach them where the openings are, but you can't get them to do it unless they've got the guts and the ability to have the vision to make the pass. And that's something that's just inherent in Jake and the way he plays the game.
Oh, that's cool. Great story as well. Though, you sure he didn't pay the kid to so he could get some more rebounding in, and you wouldn't be mad at him?
Well, no, I'm going to take it as that he was doing something nice for a young kid. It was pretty funny, actually. It was classic.
Oh, no, I obviously realized that I just thought it would be funny if he pulled a fast one on you. Coach, thanks so much.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Hey, it's great as always to talk with you. I can't wait to see you in Salem. I hope it's with your team. That'd be a really cool side of it. But in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you nonetheless. As always, you know the tradition. We give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to hear with those who may be tuning in?
I would like, if I could, and I'd love, you know how I feel about you and what you do, and especially for the Reese's NABC All-Star Game. I'm your best advocate when it comes to being on the board of directors of the NABC.
You are.
But there's such an unbelievable group of guys that put that game together. Dave, Paige Moyers, the local guy on the ground, past president. Jody May does all the nomination and selection process. Jeff Gorski's now taken over travel for the All-Star Game. Dan Priest does all the publicity, runs the internet vote. Pat Cunningham is on the ground and basically does everything. Mike McGrath does all the stuff that goes on over the weekend. It's that weekend, I think, is dressed up really nicely because of a group of guys that has a great passion for doing what we do, and we appreciate what you do for the All-Star Game. I think the All-Star Game appreciates what the NABC does for it, too. So just wanted to do a little shout-out for those guys, as well as all you do for the game.
No, well said, exactly. I agree with you about that group with the NABC. They all work hard. I know you're part of that group as well, and it's always well done. I look forward to being on the broadcast once again, and look forward to watching your games this weekend. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Charlie Brock joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Again, that All-Star Game takes place before the championship game. There is a ton of NABC guys behind the scenes who do that heavy lifting. We were hoping to get somebody last Sunday. I will try and actually get somebody this Sunday to talk about that game and Salem and all that. And the announcements to come. The last two selections that we voted for this week aren't the only selections to talk about. There's more to come. We'll get somebody, maybe Jody May, on the show on Sunday. Going to take a break. When we come back, Eric Bridgeland will join us from Whitman. We're well behind schedule, so we got to get going. Eric Bridgeland will talk about his team, the #1 Blues. We haven't talked about them since the beginning of the season here on the show. Well, we've talked about them, but not the coach. We'll talk to him about them. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Salem, Virginia. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show on this Thursday. Charlie Brock off air wanted me to make sure you get something in. He forgot to mention. He said, Charlie says that he's glad he's not the oldest guest that I could get on the show this year, or this show, and maybe in general. He was glad to see that Glenn Robinson was on the show tonight as well. He was feeling young and appreciative of that fact. Charlie Brock, always a jokester, and we always appreciate him having time to come on the show. Going to keep things moving. We haven't talked to Whitman on the show since the very first show of the season. Not talking about the preseason podcast, but the actual show that we hit the air with, because we always talk to the preseason number ones, and then we try and mix and match and not come back to them for as long as we can. Well, we went really long here. I really kind of hedged my bets. Joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of the number one Whitman Blues. It is Eric Bridgeland. And, sir, welcome back to the show. Even though my graphic says you're number 2, I know you're number 1.
Yeah, number 1 in your heart, I hope.
Yeah, well, sure.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, well, you've been busy. You've been traveling, as always, it seems. In this NCAA tournament. First and foremost, congratulations. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on you guys because there was a ginormous target on the backs of you guys. I talked to you in the beginning of the season. We saw you in Vegas. You guys took a lot of big hits in the sense that, Occidental went after you guys. You had some real good games in Vegas. Whitworth certainly went after you. You had some tougher games in the conference than you normally have. Are you surprised, honestly, that you're at this point and you only have 1 loss?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. In terms of pressure, maybe, I don't know. I don't feel, and our staff and our guys, I don't think feel any pressure at all. It's an interesting thing because we're trying to have as much fun as we can, and we're focusing on one game at a time, and then whatever,
Sure.
So for us, it's kind of similar to last year, where you look up and all of a sudden you are what you are, and you're like, well, okay, that's kind of nice, but it's not. We're never looking at that. We're never talking about it. We're never. So it's hard to really answer that,
Yeah, I understand.
For lack of a better.
I just thought. Go ahead.
No, one of the surprising things for our staff was, okay, we lost 2 starters to injury, and how are we going to look, and can we play the same way, and all the things that coaches would go through in their heads, and what's been pleasantly surprising and a confirmation of our culture in terms of developing guys. We've had younger guys step up. And guys that weren't in the rotation last year that are in rotation now, and are doing an amazing job, and that's what should happen within a program. And you just never know if it's going to, And those 2 starters were big losses, but our guys have done an amazing job, and it's all them. Compliments to them on their focus and togetherness, able to take those kind of hits and yet still have a great season on paper,
You have 10 guys who basically play in every single game, and it is those guys. I remember in Vegas going, who the heck is Trevor Osborne? Who's Darnay Duckett? Ben Beatty I knew of, but look at him playing now. And Jerron Kirkley, Robert Colton, some of these guys, you're right, have gotten a chance to shine, as it were, or at least gain experience as a result of all of this. My question about being 1 loss was I just kind of expected it from everybody. I didn't expect anybody to go through the season undefeated. But I just kind of expected with the way Whitworth was playing and the way teams were going after you, especially what I saw in Vegas, I just didn't think you guys could do what you did last year, and you nearly did it again.
It's crazy. We could, we joked about it last year because we played so many games. Like, maybe one of the most favorite stories is Worcester and them having, 16 shots with under 30 seconds to go to win the game and just missed them all,
Right.
And that's basketball sometimes. I mean, we just played a phenomenal Claremont team that hit so many big shots, and then I missed a couple that could have sent that game the other way, So, I mean, those are and then you look at it and go, whatever our record is in one, I mean, wow, but I think the secret to it is to not focus on the outcome and have a truckload of fun with a positive growth mindset, doing what you're doing, and then whatever,
You guys, this first game against Whitworth was pretty close for about two-thirds of the game, and then you guys pulled away at home. Second game, not surprisingly, came right down to the end. Some big free throws by Howell after being fouled on his last shot attempt gets you that victory. Yep. And then you play him again in the conference championship game, and then they finally upended you there, ending a heck of a winning streak for you guys against them. It certainly seemed like a really good matchup, and obviously that rivalry is something. But was the loss almost well-timed to some degree? As some teams talk to me about, hey, sometimes a loss is a good thing.
We went into that game last year, and we had the same conference title game,
Yeah.
And Whitworth was coming in, and we were thinking about, okay, we're going to see them in the first weekend of the tournament.
Yep.
The NCAA is going to do what they do. And so we, at that point, we saved all of our adjustments for the first round of the tournament, and we never played them, and we were able to win that championship game at home last year. And then, like, this year, it was like it could have gone either way. We had a 4 or 5 point lead late, and they hit a big shot, and we missed a free throw here, and so it's hats off to them in that game, but it was like in terms of timing. Did it do us well last year to be undefeated the whole way to the Final Four? I don't know. I know that our guys, we had a great week of practice before Schreiner and Claremont, and had our best weekend of basketball that we've had in 2 months. And there's no question that we attribute that to kind of a reality check that we can be in a game versus anyone, and we can lose to everybody,
Yeah.
And so we really tuned up some things, and it was their focus and their effort in the drills and in practice that I think that got our teeth back a little bit because of the loss. And there's no way we treat them all the same. We learn and we flush it and we move on. But those losses sometimes, when they don't happen very often, ring a bell with the guys, in your culture. All of a sudden, they're a little bit better doing what they normally do than after a win.
Last year, you guys averaged 91.5 points a game. This year, you're averaging 99 points a game. But it feels like to me sometimes it isn't. Well, it's never felt like a priority to you guys on putting up points. They come because of the defense you play and the opportunities you have in front of you. Is that a fair way of assessing what the mentality of the Blues is in a game that you don't necessarily look to put up points? You're just going to take advantage of opportunities to do so.
I think that's exactly right. I don't even know. Like, a lot depends on our opponent.
Yeah.
How good are they against pressure? What style of game are they worst in? Like, we feel like we can guard in the half court too. So it's a matter of the teams you play. Do we want to open it up to where it's 110 to whatever, or do we want to play it more close to the vest? Are we on the road? Are we at home? We feel like we're very flexible within our structures that we can do that. So, like, you might see a road game in the Northwest Conference where it's 81-65 and not 115 to 100. It just depends on the opponent. And we feel like we've got a group that's very flexible to play a certain way to give us the best chance to win. It's not about scoring the points, or like the spreads,
Yeah. And as many games as you've had, like Colorado College, where you win 111-69, you've had games like Occidental where you win 73-69, in the sense that you've had a lot of tight games. And sometimes coaches, I suspect your doctor would like to see you, because I suspect your blood pressure is through the roof, and maybe some other things are going on. I want to do an EKG to make sure everything's okay. But at the same time, sometimes teams get very resilient and understand that it doesn't matter, even with 39 minutes into the game and trailing, that they can find a way to come back. It's a double-edged sword. But has this team gained confidence that they can not necessarily be in control of the game and still be comfortable?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is Lombardi's quote. winning is a habit, and so is losing. And so I think we've been in so many battles. You look at last year, and I'm playing Rochester, for instance, in the Elite Eight. And even Whitworth at home, when we beat them in the title game, we were down 10 with 5 to go. So I don't think there's ever there's no pressure with us. There's no we got to come back. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
It's what are we in? We have a chance to win this. We should be down 50, not 10. And we're laughing, having a good time with it. And so there's never there's no pressure or no one's hitting the alarm bell. We're just trying to figure it out. And that formula has worked pretty well. And we talk about it all the time. We hope we win for the guys, but it's about growing and getting better and playing our best basketball with this group and enjoying every second of it. And if it happens to where, with the game at Claremont, they could easily have hit another shot, and we don't come out of there. And we're at peace with that, though. We're at peace with that. There's no, hey, you got to win. We don't talk about winning. So there's a real strength to that.
People talk about Tim Howell and his 18.5 points a game. I'm sure the doctor would like to see you as well for his free throw shooting late in games, especially of late.
That's an outcome, Dave.
He's giving me a heart attack. But there's guys like Joey Hewitt, Austin Butler, Jack Stewart, even the Cedric Jacob Jones, Ben Beatties, and the others that we have mentioned that I feel have really evolved this year. And nothing against Howell. But for some reason, the way I've watched games, it feels like it's the Butlers, the Hewitts, and the Stewarts that have really been the heart and soul of this team and really been the ones that have driven this ship this year. Is that a fair way of – and I'm not trying to take anything away from Howell at all. We all know his capabilities. No. But I really feel like it's everybody else who has risen and elevated their games to the point that now you need to worry about 10 guys.
I think we're a team. And a team's got to have a collective confidence in each other, and I don't know, they've all accepted their roles, obviously, but we weren't all Tim Howell last year either. I mean, Tim. Yeah, true. Tim's so selfless. People don't understand. I mean, he averaged 18 a game this year and 21 minutes played. Do that math. But we ask him to score sometimes. It's not necessarily what he wants to do. He wants to get people involved. That's his first thought, is passing and setting guys up and celebrating their accomplishments. And so maybe he gets a bad rap with that because his numbers are down. But he would score 12, 13 if we let him. Yeah. So in our culture, playing hard and playing for your teammates is everything. And so you look at a guy like Ben Beatty, who was off the radar for us last year. Yeah. And this year, he's been so instrumental in so many games. Cedric the same way. Cedric had 2 of the biggest rebounds we've had all season in each of the games to thwart runs. And those plays are just as important as any three or any slashing layup. And everyone takes pride in their role to help us, come out on top. That's what teams do.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I got to talk about the deja vu game here. You're playing Stevens Point. I think I called the last time you guys were playing Stevens Point. On the call back on December 29th, you guys beat them 77-64 in a game that it looked like you were in control, and they kind of came back on you on. At the same time, it very much feels like this is not the same Stevens Point team you saw in Vegas. Yes, same people, but different team to some degree. What are your thoughts on the game for Friday?
Well, I got a bunch of thoughts. My first thought is, and I don't know how it is out here in the Midwest, when you play a program with its history like Stevens Point, that's like a measuring stick, is if you can play with them and be on the same floor as them, and then you have a chance. Your program kind of means something. It's taking steps forward. Our respect for them is off the map. And what Coach Semling's done with his group. To turn around and win the WIAC, WIAC, however you want to pronounce it, with, winning 15 out of 18. Are you kidding me? So we were a different team then, and they certainly were. So, I would imagine they're soaking up film and looking at things they could have done better, and we're doing the same. But every game for us is its own little championship. You know, it's the one game we got. And so we'll do what everyone else does and soak up the film and look at where we could have done better, and they will too. And we'll go out there and see what's what and have a ton of fun doing it, you know?
Yeah, no, it'll be fun to watch, to be sure. Wish I could be there, but that's not in the cards. I'll enjoy watching it online. Hey, if I said at the beginning of the show, if I could have had my druthers, I would have flown out there, done a show tonight live, probably gone to Platteville to see the games tonight or tomorrow, and then gone to Augustana on Saturday to see more games. But wasn't in the cards. Unfortunately, I've got 2 kids who need to be watched. That's just how it works.
And there's that.
Yeah.
Right.
Sir, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it as always. There's a Lee Ravis who's a coach in the Wisconsin area. Says this guy, in talking about you, says this guy can coach. Watching Puget Sound on tape back in 05-06 was a treat. I appreciate you taking the time. You've come a long way. This program's come a long way. And here you are, right back in the Sweet 16. Good luck. We appreciate your time. As always, you give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I love you. I love D3 Hoops. And no, that's the truth. What you give our student athletes and the attention makes them feel big time. And without D3 Hoops and you, it would not be the same. And wouldn't. So your love and passion for what our student athletes are doing make it go for us. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have a gut feeling I might see you next week, no matter the outcome. But if I don't, I'll
take that back. Yeah.
I'm neutral here. I'm neutral. But I look forward to seeing you no matter when I see you. Take care of yourself, and good luck tomorrow night. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. See you.
Absolutely. Eric Bridgeland joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time to do that. They are in Platteville, playing Stevens Point tomorrow night. 2 WIAC schools there in Platteville, obviously. Oshkosh sitting. Where is Oshkosh? They're down in Augustana, so not that far away. 3 WIAC schools. Pretty. By the way, hats off. I love it. By the way, I got a tweet earlier this week from somebody saying, from somebody who used to be in the WIAC, saying something along the lines of, hey, look at the WIAC now. You got to stop being down on them. I've never been down on the WIAC this season. I don't know where anybody else has come from that. I have said it's the best conference top to bottom this year. I said it was going to be the best race to watch. I was surprised in Stevens Point, but that made it even deeper this year. Yes, I took teams out of my top 25, but they started racking up some losses. I had to do something. But I've been very impressed with the WIAC this season. So anybody who thinks otherwise, feel free to contact me a little bit more directly. I'd be happy to have a conversation about it. All right, going to take another break. One more guest. We're way behind schedule. Got to get to him. Jim Scheibel from Rochester will join us to talk about his Yellow Jackets squad and what they're doing in the NCAA tournament. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
They have dreamed of this moment since childhood. The perfect shot. The key rebound. The game-clinching basket. Winning a national championship. The NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 16th and 17th in Rochester, Minnesota. Be there. Visit ncaa.com/tickets today.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. As we are rolling along near the end of this show, we got one more segment. We will not take a commercial after that, and then we will wrap up the show with final thoughts, especially of the Jostens Trophy finalists and the vote that has been concluded, and we'll find out the winners I think early next week. If you got any questions for us before we wrap up the show, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're also on Instagram at D3Hoopsville there as well, where we promote the show, though we don't tend to interact during the show. So on the women's side, back to women's basketball, one of the other teams that has certainly been playing well, maybe flying a little bit under the radar, is the Rochester Yellow Jackets. Ranked 16th in the country, had a bit of a 3-game slide in the middle of the UAA play that maybe made a few people concerned, but they seem to have not righted the ship, but certainly feel a little more comfortable. They're taking on a familiar foe this weekend, a rematch against cross-city rival Rochester Tech, RIT, though they're taking this one on the road and playing it at Amherst. Joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline is the head coach for the Rochester squad. It is Jim Scheibel. And, sir, welcome back to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be back.
I appreciate it. Again, it's a rematch. We'll get to that in a bit, but let's go back quickly to that 3-game slide. Granted, against some very good teams. Chicago beat you on the back end of a home stretch against WashU in Chicago. Then WashU tripped you up the next Friday, and Chicago returned the favor the following Sunday. Admittedly, even I was like, oh, something seems off. Was something off, or was it just bad timing?
I think it was a combination of the schedule just kind of catching up to us a little bit. Anyone in our league could tell you back-to-back weekends against Chicago and WashU are definitely no picnic.
No.
I thought Chicago was just a better team than us this year, to be honest with you. They gave us fits with their style. I think they're really well coached, and they just beat us. WashU, we had a split that weekend. They beat us pretty good at their place. So I'm not looking at it as, we just played badly that weekend. I thought we played as well as we could, but we just ran into some teams playing really well at that point.
I think the only thing that surprised me was 52 points against WashU, 59 against Chicago. I think somebody close to your program messaged me and goes, hey, we're just not good right now. And it wasn't a shot at the team. It was just, as you said, the schedule probably caught up and the team wasn't playing as well as you normally had. But how do you right a ship like that? That's a 3-game losing streak. And Case Western Reserve's no joke. Carnegie Mellon's no joke. How do you get the team kind of refocused and forget the immediate past?
Well, I think we have a pretty veteran team. I mean, we have 6 seniors, and they all are in the rotation at some point. So I think they've been through those wars in the UAA. They know that you're going to take some hits here and there, but they know not to overreact too. And I don't think we overreacted. We just knew we got beat by some really good teams. I think coming out of that 3-game slide, you're hoping that it doesn't dent your confidence too much, and I don't think it did. I think we went right back to work after losing to Chicago on that Sunday. I thought we had a great week of practice, and then we went into Case and played really well. We were fortunate enough to get a win there, and then got another one at Carnegie. So we kind of, we got back on track. But I think it was mostly a case of the team not overreacting, knowing that we're still a pretty darn good team, and that we just had to get back to work.
So you got back to work. It clearly has worked since then. Went on a heck of a winning streak that you're currently on right now at Game 7. Opening weekend, you went through some tough teams here. I mean, Stevens, who was kind of a little bit of a darling coming out of the Empire 8, and then Marymount, who certainly has been playing well, had beat Christopher Newport twice this season. You got past them, both of those games at home. How important was it to be at the Palestra?
Well, we really enjoyed playing at home. I mean, we had nice crowds for both games. Especially, we do a lot of travel in the UAA, and so if you can stay home for an extra weekend in the NCAAs, it's certainly important. I mean, I think it was definitely to our benefit to be at home. I mean, Stevens, I thought they played pretty well. I thought that first game when you're at home, there's a lot of energy, and I thought we played exceptionally well, especially in the first half of that game. And then Marymount was just one of those grinded-out games where both teams really dug in defensively. I think they're one of the better top 3 or 4 defensive teams that we played all year, and they made us work for everything. But I do give our players credit, too. I thought we defended exceptionally well that game. And luckily, at the end, we were just able to put up a couple more points than them.
Of course, we should point out you haven't been on the road since Carnegie Mellon and Case Western Reserve weekend, which was the second weekend of February. So you've enjoyed the home cooking, as it were. You're on the road this week. You're in the middle of Massachusetts at Amherst, and you're taking on cross-city rival Rochester, who you played earlier this season back on January 2nd. You beat them by 10 at home. Obviously, that game probably means a little bit, but it also means nothing as we're so many months later and teams are very different. What are you guys expecting coming into this? What have you seen that you think I don't want to say take advantage of, that's a bad term, but what do you think you can do in this game to get past RIT?
Well, I will say, we played them, it was January 2nd, I think, so it's quite a while ago now. I think, watching them on film, they're playing really well. I think they're playing better than they were when we played them the first time. They're more confident. They definitely know how to score. They know how to score the way they want to. And they're really good. I mean, I think they've got an All-American point guard. I think they've got exceptional players around her. We're going to have to play really well. I think we're playing better as well right now. I think we're defending at another level up. But that system that they run with such an exceptional point guard, she's going to pull help to her a lot. If we don't do a good job rotating and then boxing out, they can make it a really long night for us.
Yeah, I can see that. RIT certainly playing well at this point. I know the behemoth on the other side is Amherst, and they've got a game to be played too. Have you dared even look at the Saturday game yet? I know assistants are probably doing that, but or are you just focused on Friday?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, we know RIT is really good.
Yeah.
So everything's been RIT right now. As a coaching staff, you got to do your work in the background too. But from a focus standpoint, it's RIT because, they're going to be energized. We're only 4 or 5 miles from each other.
Yeah.
It's a rivalry game. I think it's a rivalry that's really developing right now. And, I mean, they've really they've raised their program to a really high level. And we know it's going to be a battle tomorrow. So whichever team plays their style better, I think has a good chance of winning that game.
Talking with Jim Scheibel, head coach of the 16th-ranked Rochester Yellow Jackets. And quickly, I mentioned Jostens before this segment, and we'll talk about Jostens in just a little bit. But you have a Jostens finalist on your squad, one of many very good, talented basketball players from around the country, and interestingly enough, one of 2 UAAs in the Final 10 for the Jostens, and Alexandra Leslie. She leads the team at 15.2 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 50 blocks. If anyone was counting at home, that's nearly 2 blocks a game. She shoots 53% from the floor. By the way, don't let her take a three-pointer. When she takes them, she's deadly. Also 5 for 6 on the season. Also 82% from the free throw line. Is there anything she doesn't do well?
Well, we haven't asked her to bring the ball up yet. So,
okay, fair.
Other than that, she can do that, to be honest with you. She can handle it. But she's, we work around her. I mean, she's our number 1 player. What I've been impressed with is that, she put up 22 and 10 a game last year. Coming out of that, she's just been seeing double and triple teams on a regular basis. And, good players, physically can handle it, but emotionally, when you see that day in and day out, and of course we have to do that to her in practice too, because there's only one way to simulate it.
Right.
But I'm just so impressed with her composure. She sees the floor well. Her assists are way up. She finds the open shooters if she gets doubled and tripled. And another thing that, I'm really just flat out impressed with is her defense. I mean, she is a rim protector for us. We know that if a guard gets by or someone gets by into the paint, that there's a good chance that she's going to change that shot or block it. So yeah, it starts with her for us, and we work around her. But I'm we're really pleased that she's been in our program for 4 years, and I think a Jostens nomination is definitely, deserving for her.
Yeah, looking through her resume, I was certainly impressed. And I'm the kind of guy who I know I'll talk more about it, but I like the community service side of things too. And I was really impressed with what she does. I sometimes ask, and you can give us the best insight here, how in the world do these student athletes, who not only at a UAA school like Rochester have incredibly high academic demands, but obviously athletic demands and for basketball in both semesters, but on top of that, give back so much of their time to their community? Is it something, I assume you encourage it, and I understand that, but is it also one that you rein in, going, hey, for your own benefit, you don't have to do all of this?
Well, I think it would be doing an injustice to them to rein that in.
Fair.
We encourage it, to be honest with you. The one thing, about the players and students that come to a place like Rochester, and there's a lot of schools out there, that try to do the academics at a high level, and we're definitely one of them. But this place is filled with high achievers. They're used to coming here. They want the highest level academics. They want to be challenged on the basketball court. I think they want to do stuff off the court as well, like the community service. So, I sit on a couple of awards committees over the years here at Rochester. I see some of these resumes that come in front of me. I'm just like, oh my gosh! If I tried to do half of this stuff, I'd be struggling right now. So, I feel truly lucky to be working at a school like Rochester, which encourages them to be high achievers across the board.
Yeah, it's certainly impressive. By the way, I'd love to know how you stole her out of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of good Division III basketball programs that would have loved to have her. How do you steal her out of there?
We got lucky, to be honest with you. Yeah. She didn't play a whole lot of AAU coming up through the system. Ironically, we got a tip on her from a field hockey player who was an All-American here at Rochester.
Huh.
She said, you should take a look at the center for our team here. She's pretty darn good. And sure enough, she did not mislead us. So that's how we kind of originally got on her. I think then she came up and took a look and decided, hey, as far as, she wanted to be pre-med at the time. So for her opportunity to go into, potentially a program that would lead to medical school, it's got to be a good school. And, she's not pre-med anymore, but she still, does the academics at a high level. But we got lucky. All the pieces just kind of fell in place where she felt this was a good fit for her. She liked the campus. She liked the program. And, we got a once-in-a-generation player.
Yeah. You certainly did, sir. Very impressed. Before I let you go, reminder to anybody at home, you're on the Women's National Committee. Being the fact that you're in the tournament, you didn't have much to do with the bracketing, and the fact that you were at large probably took you out of some of the conversations as well. But any thoughts on the work you guys put forth and anything that you would take to the table about trying to tweak or change in the future?
Well, I think the first thing you have to recognize is, I feel really lucky to be on a committee like this. There are some really hardworking people on that committee who take this responsibility very seriously. I would say every one of them. And there's going to be some disagreements as far as, how the bracket works out. I think it's a tough sell. We're not Division I, we're Division III. We have some constraints that they don't.
Yep.
So geography might come into play. That 500-mile limit might come into play. But overall, I will tell you this, that there's 8 members on the national committee, and then there's our NCAA liaison, and she's got help too. We're trying to get the best field set, and we're trying to get the best bracket. And there's always going to be some people who say, you could have done this, you could have done that. We get that. But overall, I'm just proud to say that I'm on a committee that takes its job really seriously and is trying to do its absolute best.
Well, that's the truth. I certainly can applaud all those who do the work, certainly, and we're all human. I'm sure there could be 100 different variations of everything you guys do if you had enough time to do it. You're never going to find a consensus perfect way of doing it. I was just always love chatting with you, you on the committee and you in general, and get your insights, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of dawning on me here is, the season starts to wind down here is we have 6 seniors And I just want to congratulate all the seniors out there who, I'm sure have had the time of their lives playing college basketball. And I promise you're going to have memories that last a lifetime. And enjoy it while you have it, but feel really appreciative that I think just about everyone's had these great teammates, and these are memories that you definitely will cherish.
Yeah, well said. Well said indeed. Thanks for the time, Coach. Good luck this weekend, to be sure, and we'll look forward to talking to you sometime down the road.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. Jim Scheibel joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. By the way, I always love looking through a UAA roster to see where they get teams, and one that jumps out of, or players, I should say, one that jumps out of me for Rochester. Jillian Mayer, the freshman from Lake Oswego, Oregon. If you don't know where that is, it's right outside Portland. Beautiful area, by the way. Lake Oswego, Oregon, named after Oswego, New York, believe it or not. That is a direct connection. She's a chemical engineering major. There's so much I'm not even on par there with. It's not even funny. But congratulations to Rochester. Again, big game against RIT coming up. Should they win, and I emphasize those words there, should they win, and because you just don't know, they are in Amherst. They'll take on either the winner of Amherst or Montclair. Can you believe Amherst and Montclair have never played each other? Apparently, on the note I got, they've never played each other. And, of course, this goes back to that other ha-ha that I've had fun with. Remember that Karen Harvey at Montclair and G.P. Gromacki at Amherst are connected to each other because of Drew. If I've got it straight, and I deleted the email that's got it, but I believe it's straight, Drew lost its head coach. G.P. was hired by Drew for about a hot minute. Did not coach in a game. It was in the off season. And then Amherst's job opened up, and he took the Amherst job in the same off season. Karen was then was then at Drew for a season, I believe, replacing GP before then moving on to Montclair. Look at the success of those two programs. And and Drew's just sitting there going, hey, we hired both of them. We look pretty smart, right? It's crazy. All right, so Jostens. I'm honored to be on the Jostens panel for picking the winner, essentially. And what we do is we get a ballot. So we get 10 finalists from both the men's and women's side, and we get their nominations, their sheets. This is just the women's one. Here's the men's one. And it's full of letters of recommendation, stats, information about what they do in the community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I go through it with a highlighter to pick out the notes that jump out at me. And remember, the Jostens is about the best player on the floor, the best student in the classroom, and about someone who also gives back in the community. I think it's very important. I know a lot of people give it to the player. We had the Nebraska Wesleyan player a couple of years ago won it, despite the fact, excuse me, his stats were maybe 1/4 against Division III schools. That's besides the fact. My point being is I lean a little bit away from the game. The game is meaningful to me, and their stats of who they are as players is meaningful to me. All of them are good. None of these people who we're voting on are bad players at any way, shape, or form. So I tend to lean a little bit towards, okay, what are they like in the classroom? Most, if not all, are better than I ever was in the classroom, and so I take note of that. And then what do they do in the community? And I find that important, and so I sometimes vote a little bit differently. But what I'm trying to get at is the men's group this year was phenomenal. I think we went through a couple of years there where we had some good candidates, but not all 10. The men's, Nate Axelrod from Ohio Wesleyan, Marcus Echeverria from Nichols, Brandon Federici from Franklin and Marshall, Ashton Francis from Wheaton, Kevin Grove from Carleton, Jay Howard from Catholic, Patrick McDonald from Maritime, New York, that is, Wes McKinney from Hanover, Dalton Myers from York, and Andy Orr from Lebanon Valley. They're all terrific players. They're all terrific, for the most part, students, and they're all amazing at giving back to the community. I was actually blown away reading what some of these student athletes have been up to or what they're doing in their communities. On the women's side, you have... forgive me. You have Sam Chandler at Averett, Michaela Eppert at Elmhurst, Alexandra Leslie, as we mentioned, at Rochester, Camille McPherson at Moravian, Abby Owings at Thomas More, Raquel Penderzani at Johnson and Wales of Rhode Island, Caitlin Reed of NYU, Allie Renfret at Pitt Bradford, Katie Summer at Wartburg, and Jess I'm going to say her last name wrong. I saw her, Volmelker from Teal. Incredible individuals. Listen, there's a lot to be said about the younger generation, or at least I should say a lot of what other people say about the younger generation and the millennials and whatnot. One thing I'm always proud of in Division III is that I think we get tremendous student athletes and tremendous people. And these Johnston's finalists on both the men's and women's side, I think, are a true testament. Really good crop of student athletes. And by the way, that also means there's some really good programs and SIDs and coaches out there and even athletic directors who have taken the time to nominate these individuals. I think in maybe the last couple of years, those nominations had kind of fallen off a little bit because I could think of a couple that were tremendous. But the nominations are tremendous. And what they do in their community is bang up. Hats off. I just wanted to say that since I went through the last few days reading through all these bios and letters and all that, and to make up my ballot. And by the way, we vote on all 10. We just put them in an order of 1 through 10. And there's something like 20 or 30 people on this panel who vote. And I'll just say I could have put my order on both the men's and women's in a lot of different ways and argued my way into different ones. Even on the men's, I don't think there was a slam dunk number one. That's not a knock on anybody. I think there was a lot who deserved to be number one. I'll be interested to see who the winners are, and we'll look forward to talking to them when we're in Salem and then featuring as part of our pregame shows in Salem as well. Last chance to get any questions in. I know there was one from Sean. He says, forgot about the Thursday show. How do you forget about this Thursday show, Sean? We always have a Thursday show. Well, except for next week. Join late. I'm sorry if this is a repeat question. Give us your Final Four and why. Feel free to go beyond that. Well, I'm going to disappoint some people. I'm not giving you my Final Four. The basic reason I'm not giving you my Final Four is because I broadcast the games, especially on the men's side. And I don't want anybody to think I have favorites, to be blunt. So let's say I picked 2 of the 4 correctly. I don't want people to think that those are my 2 that I think are favorites. It's not true. That's not how I call sports. I am very neutral. Even if my own team was involved, I'd be pretty darn neutral. It's just the way I was trained and the way my experiences have been that I don't have a rooting party in anything. But I don't want anybody else to think, oh, you picked so-and-so and they made it, so you must be riding them. Or you picked the other team and they didn't make it, and so you must be bumming or not liking that other. And I don't want people thinking that. I will say I'll go through the games and kind of give you a sense, kind of like I did on Sunday. I think the Mahwah, New Jersey bracket is fascinating. Ramapo and F&M are 2 different Ps from different pods, as I said. I think that's a tremendous game to watch. Middlebury MIT is a game that should take place more often, to be honest. The fact that this is the first time since the 06-07 season that those 2 teams are playing each other is mind-boggling to me. 2 very well-coached teams. Middlebury, I'm not totally sold on. I don't know what to expect of the Panthers. I rode them high a couple times this year only to see them hit some real tough spots. MIT, in the meantime, be on the lookout to see if Jomar is back and playing. If he's back and playing, even at 75%, it changes the equation. You know, how does Middlebury scout for this game? Do they scout for the MIT team from earlier in the year? Do they scout for this new team? Or do they scout for a third version, which is this new team now with Jomar back? I think Middlebury's got a tough task there, depending on what MIT puts on the floor. Oshkosh and Emory, 2 behemoths who don't know each other very well. Emory, well coached, maybe a little undersung, including by myself. Oshkosh proving that their tough run through the WIAC was maybe more of something they learned from than anything else, that maybe it made them better. I wasn't that impressed with Oshkosh halfway through the season, and I thought they were going to be a darn good team. At one point, I had them in my top 5. So I thought Oshkosh has been good this year, but then they went through the WIAC and they lost games I didn't think they should have been losing. As tough as the WIAC is, at some point, you need to be on top of your conference and beat the teams you should beat. And I didn't think Oshkosh was getting that done. Augustana versus John Carroll is just an outstanding X's and O's game, to be blunt. You got a longtime coach in Gray Giovanni taking on a first-time coach in Pete Moran, though Pete Moran's got a ton of experience, especially following his father at John Carroll. John Carroll's going to go at him defensively. So is Augustana to some degree. Augustana's also got some weapons that you cannot overlook. And I'm waiting for Krishan Orange to kind of make that big run or big appearance like he did last year. He's leading the team in scoring, but I'm waiting for that big moment. And that's all at Rock Island. Those games should be fascinating. On the other side, Whitman versus Stevens Point, rematch of the D3Hoops.com Classic game, which I think is cool just on the fact that it's a rematch of the D3Hoops.com Classic game, darn it all. Especially late in the tournament or midway. Whitman they're unfazed. You heard it from Eric Bridgeland. They're unfazed. They lose, they lose. It's not going to make or break their lives. And I think that is a dangerous team. That makes for a dangerous team. You're not going to phase them, in other words. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose. But they're going to try their best, and they're going to win a game. They're going to fight to the very end. That's a dangerous team. The other side of that, Stevens Point. I don't know what to make of it. It clearly looks like it's a different team from Vegas, but how are they different? Specifically, how are they different? I think that's hard to put your finger on. They aren't a team that blows you away. They don't have any names that jump out at you in any way, shape, or form. Even their championship team that was all about defense and barely any offense and had nobody above 6'4", at least had some names on their team. They're doing this without Boblitz this season, which is insane. That's going to be a great X's and O's game as well, and a lot of crazy defense, to be honest with you. Two very different teams. Nebraska Wesleyan and Platteville, two teams that have a lot of question marks about them because where did they come from? There's a lot of people who said, hey, I thought Nebraska Wesleyan would be good this year. I agree, I did too, but their out-of-conference schedule told me nothing. And then their IAC schedule just confused me. Platteville was dead last in the WIAC last year, won one game in the darn WIAC and won the regular season. That's a great game of two teams who can reemerge, two historic men's basketball teams that can reemerge in the national conversation. Nebraska Wesleyan, who was a national runner-up, Platteville, who's won many national titles, but it's been a long time since they've been in the spotlight. Tremendous opportunity for both those two teams, and being at Platteville, you certainly got to like Platteville's chances. Swarthmore versus Plattsburgh. Swarthmore's been playing lights out. They beat Wesleyan 97-75, and they beat New England College, not surprisingly, 90-63. Is Swarthmore really playing that well right now? They've gone through some phases this year. Taking on Plattsburgh. Plattsburgh's probably a darn good team. They're on something like a 20-game winning streak. Very good. Patron has certainly been the key for them. Those early season losses costing them this hosting opportunity, FYI. We'll see what that game is made of. I think that's kind of reminiscent to me of MIT versus Brockport. In some degree. And it may not be perfect example there, but that's kind of where I'm thinking. And then Hamilton versus Springfield. Two very similar teams in some ways. You heard Coach Charlie Brock talk about it. Hamilton, though, big, disciplined, very smart basketball team in the sense of how they run things against Springfield, who's just, to some degree, I think Springfield's gritty. That's going to be a great game as well. And coming out of the weekend, it's a who's who. Pick a team. You got as good a chance of getting that one right as anybody else. Sean follows up, says, if you could see any matchup in D3, what would it be? I said at the beginning of the show, I wish if I'd had my druthers, I would have flown out today, done Hoopsville on the road, gone to Platteville tomorrow to see the games at Platteville, and then to Augustana to see the games in Augustana on Saturday night. The only main reason to that, in which order I would have gone in, well, one, I would have loved to see Whitman Stevens Point again, and I wanted to see Nebraska Wesleyan. But more importantly, it's easier for me to get to Augustana to the airport to get back home on Sunday than it would be from Platteville. But that is what I would have loved to have done this weekend on the men's side. On the women's side, I would have loved to have gone to Hope. I would have loved to have gone maybe to Amherst. Certainly would have loved to have gone to Wartburg. And Scranton. Actually, I would have loved to have gone to all four sites on both sides, but the men's side, I would have loved to have double dipped. And technically, if I could have been able to pull it off, I could have double dipped this week on the East Coast, too. Go up to Ramapo for the first set, down to Swarthmore, or vice versa. It's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to get the games on Friday. On the women's side, real quick, again, Amherst and Montclair playing for the first time ever, apparently. Two tremendous coaches, and Montclair may be better than I expected. And Amherst struggling against St. Joe's in the last game. I expect that one to be a doozy. Rochester Tech is going to be a great, as Coach Schreibold said, rivalry game. Hope versus Christopher Newport, I think, is going to be a behemoth of a game. Christopher Newport seems to be playing really well, and Hope just doesn't seem to have any quit in them. Thomas More versus Gustavus Adolphus. Gusties are now kind of playing above themselves a little bit, above expectations, above where they've been in the past. We'll see how they do against Thomas More to some degree. Scranton versus Bowdoin. I'm fascinated by this one. I'm not sure who comes out of it necessarily, but I'm fascinated because it's two teams who are playing very good and have played very good all year, but have been outshadowed by other programs. Messiah versus Tufts. Messiah has flown under the radar for a lot of people, except those in the Mid-Atlantic. I certainly have known about Messiah. But Tufts, with 4 losses, okay, they're still treated like they've only a 1 or 2 loss team. Wartburg versus Trine. We talked about that earlier with Bob Amsberry. I'm really looking forward to that game too, because I think Trine might be able to take something to Wartburg, but at the same time, Wartburg's undefeated for a reason, and they absolutely blitzkrieg through their conference, where normally they at least lose one or two. And then St. Thomas East Texas Baptist is a game that's just of what? It's two unknowns, and I think it's going to be fascinating. He said, meant any game, Greenville versus Grinnell, any combo. Oh, jeez. Jeez, Sean, that's... I don't know, to be blunt. There's 100 matchups I'd love to see. Yeah, maybe Greenville, Grinnell. I'm not a fan of the system in the sense of wanting to sit there, but if there was one system game to go to, I think that would be it. I'd love to go see Chicago, WashU when both teams are clicking along. I got a chance to see WashU versus NYU a couple of years ago. That was a lot of fun. I'd love to go see a top-end CCIW game or a top-end WIAC game if I can. There's a lot of matchups I'd love to see. A lot of dream matchups, to be honest with you. And be honest, at the D3Hoops.com Classic, I get that opportunity more often than not. I think that's going to wrap us up. A reminder, we'll be back on the air Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, with a wrap-up of the sectionals and a look ahead to Rochester and Salem. A reminder, next Thursday, not on the air, though if you're a coach in the NABC and you're in Salem, we will be hosting our annual reception at Corned Beef. We hope you'll join us. And then we'll be on the air Friday and Saturday from Salem with the pregame and postgame shows. Plus, I'll be on the call for NCAA.com as the analyst. Should be great in Salem. Looking forward to it, to be sure. I also think it's going to be great in Rochester this year as well. I'm trying to think. There was so Sunday night again, 7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll recap the sectionals. I may or may not be on the road this weekend. I'm definitely not making games on Friday, unfortunately. There's a chance I may head out Saturday, either to Swarthmore, which is the easy trip, or head all the way up to Ramapo for the longer trip. But it's going to be dealer's choice how I feel that day. I also might just take the weekend off and watch the games at home. That said, I've never done that, or I haven't done that in a number of years on this weekend. It's a little bit weird, but it just may be because that's how the card's laid out. That's going to do it. I got to get off the air. Got to go relieve a babysitter who's watching the kids. You've been watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Once again, thanks to all our guests, including Bob Amsberry at Wartburg. Brian Morehouse, please go back and listen to all these interviews, but especially the Brian Morehouse one at Hope. Glenn Robinson at Franklin and Marshall, Charlie Brock at Springfield, Eric Bridgeland at Whitman, and Jim Scheibel at Rochester. And thanks to all their sports information directors as well for their help getting the programs on the air, and we appreciate the time that they took to do that. Well, again, be on the air 7 o'clock on Sunday. If you want to follow us on Twitter, at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. We're on Instagram at D3Hoopsville as well. Go to Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can join us there as well. And, of course, you can follow us on YouTube. And, of course, D3Hoopsville.com is our website. You can always email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. as well. That's going to do it, though. I just realized I hadn't been checking our some messages. I want to double check I didn't miss somewhere else. Thanks to the D3Hoops.com for their help, along with the WBCA Women's Basketball Coaches Association, and the Center Court segment this year and their whole this week and all year long have been tremendous. We look forward to partnering with the WBCA in the future again. Of course, the National Association of Basketball Coaches as well. We'll have an NABC segment coming up on Sunday. We probably with Jody May talking about the upcoming All-Star game. He doesn't know that yet. We'll reach out and ask. And, of course, our partners at the City of Salem as well. Appreciate them taking the time. I'm now seeing messages that I may have missed. Do we have official game times in Salem? Yep, 5 and 7:30 on Friday night. And I believe that means the championship's at 6 the next day, maybe. I'm not positive. That's the Salem stuff. And that's going to do it. Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you for taking the time. You've been watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. This is a copyrighted broadcast. All rights reserved by myself at Hoopsville and DMAC Productions. If you want any rights to use it, just contact me. I'm probably going to let you do it, but it'd be nice if you at least ask permission. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. See you back here Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, as we wrap up the sectionals and look at who are the final 8 teams in the NCAA tournament brackets. Good night, everybody.